Hi, I'm Jack Arnicke, and welcome to another edition of Capital Region Real Estate Today. As we're getting ready to enter the fall season of 2023, I thought it was time to sit down and have another Q&A with Anthony Gucciardo, a leading realtor in the area. Anthony, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Jack.
We're
Thanks for coming again.
almost into early fall.
Yes, we are.
Tell us the current status of the real estate market's activity. How was the summer of 2023?
So as we approach the fall and winter of 2023, we've noticed that the market has started to cool down a little bit. Interest rates have gone up multiple times. I try and do this 4 or 5 times a year where I update the capital region and my potential clients on what's going on. We have seen for the first time in a few years a lot of price change start to happen. What's happening is you're seeing sellers whose neighbor's house maybe sold 2 or 3 years ago for $350, and they think that they can get $350 or $360 when in reality the market has cooled down. Some price points are still very hot, but for the first time in a few years we are starting to see houses sit for a few months, sometimes a few weeks, and that's an indication that things are cooling off a little bit.
And you attribute that to?
I attribute that to we were on a whirlwind for a while here.
Yeah,
where
we
houses
sure were.
Selling for top dollar, multiple offers. I've had multiple properties throughout the year. In fact, I'll put one on the screen. I just listed a house on 344 Farm to Market Road in Clifton Park. Wonderful brick ranch. We started at $379. We had 24 showings pretty much the first or second week in September, and it sold 8.5% above list price, well over $400. The seller was very happy. So certain price points are still hot. I know that may seem contradictory because I said it was slowing down, but some people are starting so high and they're not selling, they're not even getting offers, that those prices are having to come down for those sellers to sell.
And interest rates up a little bit. Every single program, it seems, our interest rates are up a little bit.
Every time we meet, the rates are going up further and further. Some of the people who are cash, such as in Saratoga, the interest rates don't affect someone. The interest rates more affect a first-time home buyer or somebody who's maybe selling that $350,000 house and they want to upgrade to a $550 or $600. The payment difference can be quite a bit. I can see if I can put some rates on the screen, but you know, if you were going to get a mortgage at 3%, you know, in 2019, and now the mortgage rate is 7%, that's well over $1,000 a month in payment. So that may put somebody at the point where they can't make the move.
And you said the price was higher on that property in Farm to Market Road. That is an area that's still hot. What about other areas, Schenectady, Troy, those cities that have traditionally been slower real estate markets? Is it hitting them a little harder?
Yes, we are seeing those areas have come quite a bit from where they were 10, 15 years ago. We've seen houses in the Union Street area off Balltown going down into Schenectady sell for $250, $300, even approaching $350, and that's an indication that buyers were basically priced out of other areas such as Niskayuna, Colony, Latham, Loudondale. So what they do is they either send their kids to private school or even the Schenectady school system, and they get more house for their money. So that's driven the prices in those areas up. But even Rensselaer County, I'm listing something, I sold something on Gardner Road that we are in the process of updating. That house will go on the market for around $350,000 when it's complete. And that was a house that years ago wouldn't have even sold for $250,000. So you're seeing a lot of the boomers and a lot of people who have been in their houses for 25, 30 years. They're getting my postcards. Maybe they're talking to other realtors and they're saying, wow, we really tripled our money on our investment. Maybe we should get out.
But with areas like Schenectady and Troy, are they more interest rate sensitive? Do the people who buy in those markets have more of a concern about the interest rate than, say, somebody in Saratoga or Lake George?
Potentially, yes. I mean, when you look at Schenectady and you look at Troy, Rensselaer County, I'm going to say 75% of those sales are mortgages, and maybe 15-20% are cash deals. Some of them are intra-family transfers as well, where there's no money exchange. It really depends. But there's, a Saratoga cash buyer is obviously different from a first-time home buyer in the city of Schenectady, New Schenectady, say, who's spending $250,000 or $300,000, and that interest rate obviously can determine what they will spend.
That New Schenectady campaign, I'm just curious if you've seen that have any impact on the business you do.
I have not seen it have any impact, but I think Schenectady has great potential. I think there's a lot of industry down there. I think there's a lot of people who go out to dinner down there, including myself. I've always said throughout the years that although I live in Latham, one of my favorite areas from a housing standpoint is Niskayuna. I sell a lot of properties off Rosendale Road and off River Road, and Niskayuna is a fantastic area. Schenectady County in general is. And I think it's going to continue to thrive. They have their issues like any municipality in the Capital District, but I think they're working on a clear path to improve. And as the sale prices rise, you're going to see more people move into the area with better paying jobs, and they're more educated, and that translates into a better community for everyone.
Absolutely. All right, we've covered the area, we've covered the market, ready to sell. What should I do to make sure that I start off on the right foot with a realtor?
So this year I've noticed with the height of the market and the housing craziness that a lot of people are going back to for sale by owner, and I respect it. If you want to try and sell your house for sale by owner, I've always been of the mindset that you hire a professional to do a professional's job. And I feel that when you do for sale by owner, there's a house I sold on 78 Glenwood Drive in Latham. I'll put that on the screen. They interviewed me and they decided to go for sale by owner. They did not like my price. 2 weeks later, they called me, Anthony, can't do this. No one's telling us the truth. Long story short, I list the house for $399. It sells in multiple offers for $425. The sellers, by hiring me, got $25,000 above the list price. Okay, they essentially paid for the entire 6% commission. But what's happened the last few months, and I've heard this from other agents and I've experienced this myself, a seller will call me, I'll go out to their house at dinner time, 6:30 at night, and they'll tell me, and I don't think they do this intentionally, but I think the consumer-realtor relationship can be a lot better if consumers understand that real estate agents work on a commission basis only. We have no salary, no health care, no sick days, no pension, no retirement, no 401k, none of that. So sellers will call me out to their house and they'll say, we really want to thank you for your time. We're probably going to sell to our cousin. We just wanted your advice on what the price should be. And I kind of say, you know, I take time, and other realtors take time from their family and their daily activities to offer people a professional service. And if they have no intention of using us or compensating us for our time, they really should not be contacting us. And I've had sellers a few times this year kind of use us. Now, if a seller calls me and says, hey, Anthony, we're thinking of selling to our niece or a family friend, we're happy to pay you for your time. Would you be willing to come out and tell us what the home is worth? That is 100% fine. And I have sellers pay me $500, $1,000 for an hour of my time to tell them what the house is worth, give them suggestions. But when you call a realtor or you call someone like myself and you have no intention of engaging our services, you are a great candidate to go do research online. Zillow, Realtor.com. There's so many sites where you can get the information you need to have a smooth relationship and not waste anyone's time. You really should be forthcoming with that realtor when you call them on the phone and say, hey, we're thinking of doing this in a month. We're thinking of doing this in 3 months. I have people who call me. I had a gentleman call me, nice older man, lovely guy. He wasn't going to sell for 5 or 10 years, and he wanted me to come out. And I said, you know, sir, I appreciate that, but I can't come out if you're not really thinking of selling your home. And he understood eventually, but we work on a commission basis, and as I said, we're not salary, and I don't think anybody out there works for free. So it's really important that when you're engaging the services of a real estate professional, you understand how the compensation works.
Just curious on that house that you mentioned where they called you back in 2 weeks and listed for and listed for $399. Correct. Was that price higher than what they were asking in the for sale by owner as a FSBO?
So I had originally told them $399 on that FSBO. They had seen that I sold another house here on Dyke Road in Latham that was listed with another broker, and I got a really good price. In hindsight, the house should have never sold for that, but these people wanted it. They paid the price, and the house on Glenwood was far superior to the house that they were familiar with that I sold. So they thought that they should get $450. They were kind of turned off by my price of $399. Right. So they started at $450.
Okay.
These are his words, not mine. But he said he failed miserably, hired me at $399, and he got $425. So, in all fairness, he still got $25 more than I originally suggested.
Yeah.
It was less than where he started, but where he started was so far out of reach that the 20 people who came through the house had no interest in buying it or even making him an offer. As realtors, I respectfully push as politely as I can without pushing, because no one wants somebody pushy in their house. No one, I don't make people sign up when I go to their house. I let them think about it. Sometimes people are ready and we sign up on the spot, and that's great. But I never like to be overly pushy, because that can turn someone off.
Is there a time when a home seller should not want to call a realtor?
That's basically when you're not thinking of really hiring a realtor. If you're going to go for sale by owner, or you're going to sell to a cousin, unless you're willing to pay a flat fee or a compensation, or initiation fee of some sort, or a retainer fee to seek the advice. If you're willing to do that, that's fine. But if you're not looking to pay for any advice or any services, your best bet is the internet.
Okay. You deal with a lot of people this day and age, particularly with the demographics in this area, who are downsizing, senior citizens, those who have lost a spouse, so on and so forth. Do you ever tell anybody they shouldn't sell?
This question has come up many times, and I meet with a lot of senior citizens. I would say the average age of my client is 55 and plus.
Really?
And sorry for the plane noise here. Basically what happens is, if a senior citizen calls me, or a widow, and they are looking to downsize, but they're still physically able to do the steps and do everything they can in their house, but they just need some added guidance. I've had a lot of people regret selling their home. So I always tell people, if this is what you really want to do, I will help you, but make sure it's the right decision. If someone just needs a landscape, or needs their driveway shoveled in the winter, it might not be best to go to a condo. You might want to hang out into your house. But if your house is deteriorating, or maybe you can't afford it anymore because you're on a fixed income,
right,
or maybe you can't find the help, then it may be good to go into a townhouse or a condo. It really depends. But if I really don't think someone should sell, I will tell them.
And if you think they should sell, you got senior citizens. I mean, all of us who are of that age have collected a bunch of stuff.
Yes.
How do you deal with the clutter?
Well, clutter is always something that people have, especially when they
or
live
treasures,
in their house for 30 or 40 years. But I always tell people is, sometimes as the commission that people negotiate, and I'm certainly not a discount broker, but I like to make deals, and some of those deals will include that if you have, a basement section of stuff that you don't want, we will pay up to a certain amount to get rid of that stuff for you. Because I think one of the challenges of moving for sellers is, what do I do with this stuff?
Yeah.
Where do I put it? So they call me and they're like, oh, great, so we'll just take our stuff. You also have people going south. They don't want to take their furniture. I'm doing a house in Loudonville right now on Colonial Green. We sold the whole house furnished.
Turnkey.
Put that on the screen too.
Yeah.
Turnkey, 29 Colonial Green. They're my longtime clients. They purchased 3 homes with me. They're now moving, and they're going to Florida. And we sold the house furnished. And we are seeing that. We didn't see that for years. That was never.
No, you never hear about that around here.
But now in Florida, it's like every house.
Oh,
is
yeah,
furnished.
yeah.
But now we're seeing houses up here, especially Saratoga, sell furnished.
If a seller calls Anthony Gucciardo, and do they deal with Anthony Gucciardo right on through the process until the final check is in their hands?
For the most part, yes. I'm one person. I wish there were 3 or 4 of me, and I've made personal sacrifices because I love this career so much.
Yeah.
And in my 21st year, next year will be 22 years in the business. There are so many people who reach out to me, and I love it. But sometimes I have an agent in my company who lives in the neighborhood, and I will say, hey, this is a perfect match for you. So 75-80% of sellers will deal with me, but I have somebody like my agent Giuseppe Trapiano. He kind of looks like me, he talks like me, so he's a perfect match for a lot of my clients, and he does a lot of business. Same with Dan Griebert, same with Pavel. And then some people, like some of the senior citizens, they might prefer to deal with an older woman, and I have mature women in my company as well who will gladly hold their hand and sit with them. And,
Yeah.
everyone has a preference, and it really comes down to on what somebody is looking.
Make the proper match.
Absolutely.
When a house is sold, should the seller attend the home inspection?
When a house goes under contract, generally after the attorney approves the contract, it's set up for home inspections. Sellers sometimes will want to be there, and I always tell them they should not be present. It's usually the buyer agent, the buyers, and the inspector, and we remind people that it should strictly be the immediate buyers who are looking at the property. If the house is really unique or there's something complicated, generally the only thing the sellers do on some of our rural properties or properties in the country is they'll label the septic and mark it, but a buyer has the right to inspect the property. I always tell sellers, leave a note on the counter, a welcome little basket or welcome brownies, basically explaining any of the intricacies of the property. But inadvertently, a seller may say something that they shouldn't, so we always recommend that a seller should not be present at the home inspection or even the final walkthrough for that matter.
Interesting. You recently spent some time in Cape Cod.
I did.
While you were there, enjoying the sun and the sand, you got 5 phone calls. What were they about?
5 phone calls. So I was in Harwichport, Massachusetts, family vacation, and the calls kept coming in, and they were all calls from current sellers who are listed with brokers who are unhappy because the house is not selling and they want to cancel their agreement. So what I always tell people is make sure when you hire the agent, it's someone that you can work with for 3 to 6 months, and make sure you are starting at a price that is appropriate, because a lot of times sellers want to cancel a contract. I can't speak for other realtors, but I will tell people that, if they change their mind and don't want to move, that's understandable. But, if another realtor shows the property and leaves the lights on and the seller's unhappy, that's not a reason to cancel a contract. Lack of communication, not hearing from your agent for a month or 2, that's a just cause, in my opinion, of canceling a contract. You can get out of a listing agreement if you're very unhappy. You speak with the agent directly. But when I got those calls over that week, that was an indication that I knew the market was changing, that people were getting unhappy. They want to hire someone who's professional, full-time, 7 days a week, who answers their phone. Yes, I do answer my phone when people call me, unless I'm in a meeting or filming a new show or at a closing. But communication is key.
And it didn't ruin your vacation?
Did not ruin my vacation, no. It's so hot out here. I can't believe how hot it is. But it did not ruin my vacation. It was actually nice to come back to appointments where people are switching realtors and want to hire me. That's what I'm here for.
I would imagine so. Interest rates 6%, approaching in some cases over 7%.
Close to 7 now.
Does that affect the commission that you charge?
That does not. I mean, I'm not a discount broker, so generally commissions are between 5 and 7% depending on the package you do. I always tell people, if you stay at a Red Roof Inn versus a Ritz-Carlton, you're going to get a very different level of service.
Right.
I am about the experience and providing sellers and clients with the most prompt communication possible and keeping them up to date. Do I make deals? Yes, I make deals. It really depends on the situation. Depends on the house, depends on what you want. But generally commissions are still the same as they were 10 years ago.
I call you up, agree to sell, I sign on the dotted line, you are my realtor. How long before it's actually, what's the general length of time before a sale happens?
So I apologize for the weather and the planes. And
that's a busy airport. That's a good economy.
That's a good economy. So, getting back to your question, what was the question again? I forgot the question. Sorry.
What's the average time?
Oh, from the time. So if someone hires me on a Monday, the only thing we need to get going is the photos, professional photography. It's something I offer, something I pay for. So if you call me on a Monday and those photos are done Tuesday, we hit the ground running Wednesday morning. Unfortunately, the MLS and the National Association of Realtors, I feel like they kind of don't want people to be too successful, and they have instituted or initiated a rule, I should say, that realtors cannot advertise properties early. They can only advertise within 24 hours of the listing going live. Saturday morning, I get a listing. It's a great house. The sellers are happy. I'm happy. I want to tell everyone of my 10,000 followers on social media that, hey, I'm getting a new listing. the multiple listing service in Albany, the National Association of Realtors, now prevents realtors from advertising early. And I think it's such a disservice to the community. But I'm obviously a part of this board. I have to follow the rules. I don't agree with it. But I think we have some people on the sidelines who are not very successful, and they like to monitor what successful people are doing, watch us. It's not just me, it's other agents too. And they want to prevent us from standing out in any way they can. Makes you kind of think it's really not a free democracy, because it's like me saying, hey, I am being prevented from saying that I got a new listing when I'm trying to help my sellers get their property.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that is something we deal with, rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm. Many home buyers over the past 2 years have been up against multiple offers. 5, 10, 15 offers on a house. How do you make your client's offer stand out?
So 80% of my transactions are sellers, but I have a lot of past clients who will hire me to buy. And the way I make their offers stand out is by making sure we have a good deposit. You know, if you're buying a $300,000 house, put $10,000 down. It shows the seller that you are serious. Mm-hmm. When a buyer agent presents me with an offer for $1,000 or $2,000, I don't take the offer serious. These sellers are hiring me to protect their biggest asset. If a week before the closing, that deal falls apart and that buyer says, hey, we're not buying your house, and all I have is $1,000 in my escrow account, $1,000 is not going to even cover half a month's rent for the seller's new apartment.
Right.
So as an advocate and as an agent, I am always protecting my seller's interest to the best of my ability, getting them deposits, making sure that maybe they waive inspections, maybe they make the deposit non-refundable, trying to sell houses as is. Something that I've always loved that isn't always the buyers and other agents are not fans of, but having home inspections before you sign a contract, because then you get it all out of the way and you basically say, okay, we know the house has this issue, let's write an offer with no inspection contingency, and that alleviates so much stress. It also offers the sellers a lot of peace of mind, which is really important. My job is to simplify the transaction, get it to go through, be fair and honest with the buyers, but make the sellers have a good experience. So I'm always looking at what can I do for my clients to make sure that their experience is a not only memorable one, but successful one.
And the home inspector obviously has to be certified, licensed, all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Too.
I don't mean any disrespect to home inspectors, but a lot of these inspections I read, you know, there's an ant right there on the floor. So I could technically be the inspector and say, oh, there's evidence of carpenter ants at this house. Does the house really have a carpenter ant issue? Probably not. But I think what's happened through the years is inspectors have been called out and sued, and they have to cover everything.
Yeah.
Any house has some type of issue, whether it be a grading issue, mold in the basement, mold here, a GFI outlet's not working. One of the other benefits to sellers is getting the buyers. When I am hired as a seller and that buyer does the inspection, we raise the inspection threshold to $3,000. So if the seller or if the buyer finds anything under $3,000, it's not the seller's responsibility, which is really beneficial to the seller.
Absolutely, and that makes life much easier for them. Home staging, work, not work?
Home staging is great. I'm a stager and I have an agent in my company. We actually offer free staging to sellers in terms of what to do to get the house ready. If you decide you want furniture, depending on the commission you agree on, we can offer staging or just have you get stuff out of the house. This is an area where it's so affordable and so busy still that you wouldn't need to spend $10,000 on staging. But if you're selling, I sold a $6 million house in Naples, Florida. That house was staged. That house was sold furnished with $250,000 in furnishings. That's a house you need to stage because a $6 million buyer needs to see how house looks.
Oh, yeah.
A $500,000 house, not so much. So really staging depends on the house and the market.
Fall and winter coming. Can you still get top dollar?
Let me tell you, sellers, fall and winter, great time to sell homes because you have the most serious buyers out there. You have the most serious sellers. If somebody's listing their house in October, they want to sell it and they probably want to be out of there by Christmas. So don't be fooled by listing a house in April is the best time. Wintertime, fall time also allows a buyer to see the house at its worst. You know, there's trees back there. Well, in November, all those leaves are going to be down and you're going to get to see what's behind that yard. So I always tell people, fall and winter is a great time to sell a home in the Capital District.
Being approachable in real estate is important. You advertise an awful lot. Newspapers, this program, tons of stuff. Why?
So I have a lot of referral business, but I don't know if I'm using the right word, but I would say that I am socially reclusive, meaning that I will socialize, I will be friendly, but if I had my choice to be alone or with people, I would choose to be alone. Now, I love selling real estate, but I am not, a lot of realtors are out and about. They're at the track, they're at different bars, they're at different restaurants, social functions, galas. That's not my style. I'm more with family. The advertising keeps my name out there. I know some people may think that it's egotistical. It's really not. I don't think there's anyone in the Capital Region who can say, "Oh, I see Anthony Gucciardo at the Irish pub every week." They don't. I'm not one of those people. So the advertising is to keep my name at the top of people's mind when they want to sell their home, and that is the real reason I do it. It's branding.
Can get $300,000 for my house as is. Is it worthwhile to spend money on the kitchen and the bathroom?
That's a case-by-case basis. Some sellers like to do work to maximize dollars, but I always tell people, listen, if you're going to put 10 or 15 in it and only get 10 or 15 back, is it really worth it?
Right.
You know, if you put 10 in it and you're going to get 50 back, well, then that's worth it. You also have to look at the time constraints. Are you going to have a wonderful experience with the contractor who does the work? Are they going to show up on time? So, you know, if you have somebody you trust and they're going to do a good job, we obviously will talk about it. But again, case-by-case basis, something I like to speak to sellers about when they meet with me.
Over the years, you've purchased many homes, and do you continue to do that? And we have about 30 seconds.
We continue to do that. We will purchase your home as is for cash if you are interested in selling your home.
So that takes a lot of the time and effort out of the for the seller's point of view. And then do you turn those over, or do you hang on to them?
We rent them, or we remodel them and improve them, and we make sure that we maintain them to the highest standards so that none of the neighboring homes are ever devalued by a rental property or a home being remodeled.
Okay, 30 seconds left. Any final thoughts?
I would like to thank the Capital Region for your continued support as we approach the end of 2023. We would love to help you buy or sell a home. Visit anthonygucciardo.com. You can always reach me on my cell phone, 518-331-3785. I apologize about the weather, the background noise, and thank you, Jack, once again for hosting the show. And thank you, Capital Region, for your continued support.
That's another edition of Capital Region Real Estate Today with Anthony Gucciardo. I'm Jack Arnicki. Have yourself a wonderful day.